Hey guys, this is IntroducingEmy and we're back with another Redline Tuesday. Again, I didn't have any exact contact information for who I should credit this one to, but they wanted us to redo this drawing of them, I think, as a zombie in kind of like a chibi style. So that's what we're going to do, and I'm actually going to crop the top and crop the bottom a little bit so it fits better on our screen, and then we'll get going. So I'm going to kind of go into cheating mode a little bit here, and I'm going to draw a center line. So the body is a little uncentered, So then I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to warp that slightly. Because what I want is for the head and this sort of zipper area to meet that center line, and then what I'll do is I'll draw one side and then we'll mirror it, and then we'll kind of go in and unmirror it. So that already, you can see it's pretty noticeable if I turn off the... So we've taken some of the warp out of it. It's a real subtle warp. It's not... sometimes I've seen stuff that's like really slanted, so that wasn't anything that big of a deal. And actually I didn't even notice until I dropped the center line, so that's how subtle it was to me. So, yeah. Let's draw one side, and I mean, they're almost identical, so I'm going to go with this side because I think the cheek is out a little further. I can't be sure, and I'm actually going to turn IntroducingEmy up. Just so my lines are a little smoother. And I'm not stressing my hands out too much. I used to get sore wrists and migraines a lot from drawing, and I think there were two things happening there. I think I was trying too hard to overcorrect lines and keep them from looking wobbly, and thus I would spend more time in front of the computer, so I would end up hurting my hands and giving myself migraines, and it was great. IntroducingEmy and Manga Studios line correction tools have like really saved my my mind and my wrist. So there's the glasses. So here I'm actually going to... I always say that. I am actually doing this, you guys. I'm only going to draw this kind of indent into the cheek and just like the very edge of the mouth, because this mouth is so asymmetrical that there's not really any point, though I will draw like the middle gap in the tooth there. So there's no real point to drawing one side of it because I'm just going to have to erase it and redraw the other side anyway, and I'd rather draw that in like one delightful stroke. So just so you guys can see where the edge of the head is, I'm going to do that. This way when we draw the brain over on this side, we'll be able to kind of see where, like how much room it can take up. I understand that, you know, they're asymmetrical there, but I actually do kind of need a guideline. So there you go. That's about where the head would be, and the ears are probably like right in there. Okay. So we are doing a chibi drawing, which means that you still have some of your anatomy I want that to not be so deep. Let's do more like that. But when I draw chibi stuff or kind of super deformed things, I like to do sort of a potato sack build. So draw a nice circle, and then about maybe like 1.5 heads length. I was trying to think like what a, because you kind of like eyeball this stuff after a while and you don't even think about like what these measurements are. So I'm thinking about like 1.5 head, sort of a flour sack or potato sack, and then your arms will go down to about mid-leg here, or mid-upper thigh. That might even be a little long. But they're pretty basic, and I mean this is sort of like maybe more of like a little chubby, a little fat chibi, but you can just as easily straighten out the sides or you know, do your womanly hips, or you know, you could change it however you want. So that's kind of like the sizing I use. So body length is about like 1:1 if you're going with the neck, but maybe like 1.5 or something like that to the body. It's kind of, you know, you want to feel your way through, but it's definitely not going to be like human anatomy. You would never draw a head that big on like a real person or real anatomy, I should say. So yeah, I'll just leave that guy up there for now. Where was I? So I was kind of doing the legs here. So let's do a nice curve into like a little flat trapezoidal knee. And then that's going to be our ankle. And this would connect like that. Looks like a little chicken wing when it's foreshortened. And I'm going to actually turn my paper so I can look at this foot better. Alright, so this was something I thought of right away, is your elbows should be like kind of, let me sit up nice and tall, like kind of to your waist maybe, or just a little bit lower, but these are kind of, unless these are like the sleeves, this is a little long. So I would just kind of do a little snip, a little trim, and I'm trying to think of a better way to do these fists, but let me just get this arm in here. Yeah, see, I mean, like, I don't know. You can do it like that, but it doesn't seem as, like, interesting to me. Let me just dot that. Let me turn that off. The reason I turn it off is so I don't get distracted by how things are touching. Yeah, the only reason I'm kind of changing it at all, which it's like an okay, like kind of chippy hand. The only reason I'm changing it is because it's just very square to the composition. I prefer hands that are a little more, like, I mean, you can do palms as a square, and that's like a lot of times like the very basic palm that we're taught, or like square, whatever. I prefer to build on more trapezoidal shapes. I think they're more interesting generally, like at the knees I do it, or, well, I turn my knees off, but I'll show you in a second. And then there you can kind of insert your fingers. My Dave, he would always say, the body is wedge-shaped, it will get stuck everywhere. And he was always getting stuck places when I first knew him. Oh man, he would crawl into things, and I would be like, Dave, what did he get stuck in? We were like at a mall or something. He tried to crawl into a rack or something. God, this was years and years ago. Like, probably like 10 plus years ago. It was before we even dated or anything. And he like crawled into like a rack to get something, and there were bars or something, and it was like at a toy store, and it was some big object. When he got in there, then he couldn't get back out. He's not a big guy, but he could squeeze into places that no human should probably be squeezing. He's not a troublemaker by any means. He's just kind of a fool. He's gonna hear this and yell at me. So yeah, we'll just do like a little belly. So this is kind of like where your belly would be, your belly button. This is like the pec area. Nipple would be like right there. Crotch, hips. I didn't really explain the legs very well, but you've kind of got that shape going. I'm just kind of going to go over it again. But you can see a little bit of that trapezoid. Well, this is less of a trapezoid, more of a hexagon. Yeah, hexagon. I was trying to think, but so if you were to just draw, you know, the leg just hanging out, knee, awful calf, groin, other leg, something like that. You get like a very long diamond or hexagon, and then I'm just going to use the warp tool to show you. As you shrink it, you get more of that pulled up shape. I mean, obviously you'd want to clean this up a little bit, but there's your knee and your calf, and then your foot in the back there. So now he's like jumping, yay, and there's his belly midline and all that good stuff. So, and butt cheek. So foreshortening a lot of times is just, it's literally like taking that shape and squashing it, but you do need to like think about perspective and everything. You can't just like take any old object and just smush it and be like, oh, there it is, it's foreshortened. You know, you have to think a little more in perspective. Also, the leg is kind of like, if you were like looking straight down the leg, so you got your like kind of your butt cheek here, which, so remember, we're like the head is like way up here, so we're like looking like up the body. Okay, so we're kind of like looking at the butt cheek, and then you would do kind of like a gourd shape for the thigh. And this is, let me think. I'm gonna get yelled at somebody because my anatomies are always a little... This is kind of like where the bone would be, and then you got your like huge thigh muscles. And then you'd have your knee, your kneecap, eventually. And then your calf, which is a similar shape but a little more round, and then your ankle, and then your delightful foot, which apparently is shaped like a ski. But yeah, so then you gotta like take that shape. You have to take all that and use your brain meats to get your excellent inner crotchal region, thigh, and all that good stuff. Okay, so, and then eventually you can draw all kinds of dirty art because you know how to draw legs so well. Let us, well, let me not mirror it quite yet. Let me get rid of this little doodad first. I said, let me get rid of it, please. Thank you. Get rid of that. Then we're going to mirror this like the couple of cheaty snakes that we are. Lovely. Now I understand he looks, or she, I'm not sure what gender this character is, but they look ripped. That's only because I'm trying to show you like all these different little pockets of fat and, you know, where everything would go. Obviously, if you drew clothes over this, you know, ignore. Real quick, I'm going to dot my center line here. So it's not such a distraction. There's the little belly button. Actually gonna get rid of it on the face because we have this like great center line for the tooth, and I feel like that's probably enough. Though I do want to leave it for the head because I need to see that. Okay. So here we go. I love this smile. You know what this puts me in mind of? This art style, like this mouth and everything. This reminds me of those great Klasky Cuspo. Is that how you say it? Klasky Cuspo? I think cartoons that were coming out in the 90s and like late 80s. It's like Rugrats is like a real, like this kind of reminds me of Rugrats, but just like all those awesome like 90s cartoons, like this has like that feel. It's great. I love it. So this is going to be the outside of the skull and the skin, and actually the flesh on the head, I forget like how deep it can get, but it's like, I think the flesh on your skull is the deepest of all flesh in the body. Like I forget how deep it is, but if you like look up like cross section of human skull or whatever, you can see. But we're not going to get too wild with that. Like that would mean the brain would take up like a really small amount, and we want to see like a good piece of that brain. So because I mean, what's a zombie without exposed brain? So I'm actually going to just keep this size, which I like, but I'm going to trim it in over here. And the brain, when you're looking at it from the front, is kind of like a kidney shape or a lung shape a little bit. So there's one lobe, and there's the other, and then, gosh, I don't know my brain anatomy, but it's big. I haven't drawn like a human brain in a long time. I want to say it's something like that. Sort of. Looks like the head of a penis. I'm sorry. There's one lobe, and then the other lobe would be right here. Let's get some interesting jaggedy edges, and make sure your hair isn't like going right up to that skull edge, because like hair doesn't cover that, it would need, you'd want like your bone in here, so like give it a little cross section of bone, and then your skin is on top, and then the hair. So we'll just do kind of like, this will be our hairline. Especially if it's like been ripped open, you know what I mean? I'm kind of thinking perhaps I should put a warning on this video when it goes up, maybe? It's not like the most gruesome, but I knew a girl in college who just, like, even the barest hint of blood or gore, like anything, just was like, ooh, it was too much for her. And then, let's see here how we can do our brain. For this character, I mean, let's not do like this typical like kind of kidney swirling. Let's try like spirals. I think spiral gray matter in the brain looks cool. Especially for like a character like this who's like cartoony, and it kind of makes it like a little fun, but still kind of like, ooh, unsettling. Okay. Let's see here, and let's do hair, and then I'm gonna go over those intestines, and then that'll be that. I'm gonna make this a little lighter, by the way. I'm gonna use blue for the hair, and remember that hair is like not. I'm trying to think of a good way. You're kind of already doing it. You're implying these like longer locks, and So ironically, is this ironic? Coincidental? I don't know, whatever. I was just checking my blog, checking other people's blog posts and reblogs and all that, and somebody had reblogged a tutorial on how to draw hair, the understructure of hair. And I used to have a lot of problems with hair. I drew terrible hair. And it wasn't until I actually like sat down and was like, all right, we're going to study hair that I figured out like how to do the locks, you know, like coming forth from their watery grave. No, from the grow point on the head. Like I don't know what you call that. I had a teacher who called it kind of like a rosette or something. But it was like the place that all your hair sort of travels back to and like grows from, sort of. Even if it's still like growing, like if it's coming out of the head out here somewhere, because it does grow in like rows, I understand that. Rows and layers and all that. But you want to sort of do these like banana crescent shapes back to make sure that everything is sort of going with your composition, that hair doesn't feel like it's just like springing out randomly, you know. And that's like all hair. All hair pretty much grows like this. It might not grow flat or smooth or whatever, you know. It can be like curly or wavy or however, but it's all going to grow in kind of a pattern in a certain degree. So yeah, even if you only wanted to do this outside shape, like even if this was the only part you wanted to ink, was just like these little bits here, your sketch, especially if you've never drawn the character before, should at least feel like this. I have a bad habit of characters that like I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to draw this character's hair, and I don't do like any kind of undersketch. I'm like, oh, their hair is all weird by the time I go to ink it. So and since we're on a new layer, I'll do the intestines. So the small intestines, these are the big intestines, they're the large intestines, the big intestines, the biggest. The small intestines are like a hose, basically, a smooth, fleshy tube. The large intestines are sort of like, gosh, I don't even know if something like to describe them. Like, let me think here. So if you were looking at a cross section, they're kind of like this. There's like a little knitted point that holds them together, and then you know, travels throughout the intestines, or you know, travels throughout your gut, I should say, and then to draw it, you would do kind of like these lobes, which you've got going on there, but it's sort of like you've drawn half for like a row of sausages or something. Unless, are those supposed to be sausages? No, those are like intestines, aren't they? I'm questioning myself now. I think they're supposed to be intestines. So this is what the large intestines look like. So right here, I'm just gonna sort of draw how much these can hold, and then I'm gonna do sort of like a chain. And this will help me when I go to draw in the the little nodules or lobes or however you want to describe them. And don't have them just like here it's like they're making like a sharp, you know, right turn going down the street. Have them kind of do a more gentle curve, and that will show like the fact that they're like, you know, they're bunching right there and there's like more of like a fleshy weight to them. The same thing over here. But let's have this side go longer. And we'll kind of have it like go back and forth, so it's not just like straight down to the floor. Something like that. And then we'll just like do kind of like a little chewed up gory end or something there. And that will add let me go back. So that will add kind of like a counterweight. So we got this like kind of gore up here with the brain and the exposed skull and all that, and then the like catty corner from it will have this like extra I keep wanting to say kidney, this extra intestine that's like all chewed up and, you know. Chew up that end too. So I'm actually going to get rid of this. Actually, this should be called, my name should be Introducing Actually. And then I will change the color of this and lighten it. Just make it like an orange, and then I'll go over top of it. So now you just kind of got to put your artsy booties on, because there's not really an easy way to do this. But just remember, it's kind of like two strings of water balloons or grapes or something knitted together at the top and bottom. So it's kind of like this, but like double that, with like a you know, a line of tissue at the top and bottom that hold it all together. Then if you want to get real gross, you can draw the connective tissue hanging off of it that keeps it, you know, in place in your gut. I could probably overdraw like a lot of these. I'm sort of being a slow butt about it. So I'm trying to get going here. I have other things I've got to get done today. So while I'm sitting here drawing intestines, and I have you on the edge of your seat, I am happy to announce that through my Patreon, I have funded a video camera for recording art. Not only a video camera, but an overhead rig, so that I'm going to hook it up to my drawing desk. And most everything should be here next week, which for, I don't know when you guys are going to see this video, but for you guys will be this, yeah, next week. So like, I'm hoping by the 17th, maybe? I found this great tutorial online, and and of course I can't think of the guy's name, but he did this great overhead rig using a lamp, an IKEA lamp, and a Sony swivel adapter for cameras. And I was like, huh, that sounds like something I can get behind. And it was so, other than like owning the camera itself, which I knew was going to be a little bit of some money, the tutorial he made was great, and I was like, awesome, I'm totally gonna get behind this. So, and I was determined. I was like, I'm doing this exact setup. This is exactly what I need. It doesn't take much to put together. I just need to like drill some holes and some other stuff into the lamp and all that. But I found out the lamp and the swivel adapter that he used in his tutorial are both no longer in production. But they are still considered like the go-to for both as a lamp and both as a swivel adapter. And I was like, I sighed in frustration that I found out that they were both no longer in production. So I had to like order them. One, I think I managed to find somebody was selling the lamp online. It was an IKEA lamp called the Tertial that they don't actually sell in California for whatever reason. And I don't know if it's still... No, I think it's in production because you can see it on the website, but you can't buy it in California. There's like something about the metal that... California has a lot of weird rules about carcinogens and stuff, so you can't sell certain product. Who knows? I mean, honestly, I really don't know for sure if that's the reason, but I remember the Tertial and a few other lamps were lamps that you could absolutely not get in any California IKEA. So I had to order them online. And I had to pay double what I normally would have had to pay, because you can't get them like anywhere anymore. Anyway, even if it wasn't just like a, you know, no Californians may own this lamp kind of thing. So I ended up paying double. I paid $18 when if it had been in a store I would have gotten it for $9. I'm not that big of a penny pincher. It's still kind of frustrating. It's like, man. Same thing with the swivel adapter. I could have gotten it for $20, had to pay $40 because they don't make it anymore. That one they definitely don't make anymore. There's no like rules about it not being sold in California. They just don't make it no more. But yeah, I'm really excited. I haven't owned a digital video camera before. My phone has one, but it's, you know, it's a phone camera. It's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something a little higher quality. All right. And then I'm going to delete that under sketch just so we can lose some of that confusion a little bit, and let me lighten the foot here so we can see. So there we go. I think that will be doing it for this tutorial. I think it's really cute, this drawing. Cutest zombie ever. because I don't really think there's anything else I need to go over. Let's do a little compare and contrast. So yeah, we just kind of shifted everything. I think it's just a little more, you know, solid now. You can't push this kid over. Yeah. And I didn't go over the clothes, oops, because the clothes were pretty much, you know, fine. You're on the right track with that, and just not a whole lot for me to say about the clothes. You know what? I feel, well, this episode is getting kind of long. I was going to say I could go over the shading. Yeah, let me do shading real quick, because I noticed that you're doing kind of this, like, edging thing, which I see a lot, and I probably have no room to say anything because I have sort of this, like, default shading that I tend to, like, fall back on that I shouldn't, but I do because I'm a bad person. So, let me pick a good color here. You see, no, you can't really see that against. I need like a really obnoxious color to use. Yeah, like that. So, let's say the lighting is kind of coming down like this. You're not gonna get like this edge here. Though you're kind of like getting into the ballpark of what it needs to be. So here, still not like a good color. Here, there, that. Okay. Also, you could probably mirror the shading as well if you wanted to be a cheaty snake with me. By the way, I don't consider it cheating, but I know some folks would be like, no, you absolutely must draw the other sides, but trust me, lots of old school artists have done this kind of stuff, mirrored things, and in fact, I think they used to make like a light box or something, or like a reflection box. I don't know what you call it these days, but they used to make something that would like reflect an image, then you draw it on the other side. I kind of remember seeing them in like in kids magazines growing up. It was like something kids could use to like trace pictures out of magazines and I guess teach themselves to draw or something like that. I don't know, something like that. So let's do the head shadow. Could do like a little shadow there at the top of the belly. So the glasses are sitting flat, but the head itself is curving like back. This is be the point that's the closest to us. So actually, the glasses would cast a shadow more like this. Now I realize if you've ever looked at my art before, this is very like typical like Emmy shading and shadows and stuff. I'm just doing the best I can to lay it down where I think it would go, and you can always add your own artistic flair to these sort of things. Or you can just do what I did and just be like, it's wrong, it's all wrong. Erase it all. Shade these great lobes. Oh, I still have it set for that softer erasing. Had it set for like a lower opacity than what I wanted. I wondered why I was getting some like weird effects with the shading. Okay. You can even throw in some like individual strands, things like that. And the intestines, you just have to remember, they're basically like balls stacked on each other, so you're going to get, you know, not only a shadow being cast down on this curve, but then down onto that one, and then down onto that one, you know, so on and so on. So I'm being a little sloppy about it, but you get the idea, I hope. Similar thing with like braids and stuff. It's not just intestines. I mean, that's kind of like the only thing I can think of actually that looks like this, other than maybe like a rope or a chain. But okay, a little sloppy there, and then if you wanted to, you could do, come on, what are you doing to me? Here we go. You could do like a little bit of a lobey cast shadow of the intestines, like laying over the lap. If you want. You can do whatever you want. So there we go. That'll be that. I'm going to call this one done and get going on making the video itself. And yeah, keep sending your Redline Tuesdays in to emmy.bittner@introducingemy.com. And if you don't know how to spell all that, look up in the banner of my YouTube and you can see the email up there. And just put Redline or Redline Tuesday in the subject line, and it will get filtered through because I have a million filters running on my inbox because I get a lot of emails. So, yep, there you go. Alrighty, I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.